let's talk about how to get into kettlebell training, maybe go over some things if you're more advanced athlete, like maybe ways you're approaching kettlebell training incorrectly, and if you are more beginner, how you could kind of ease into this overall, talking about kettlebells and garage gym athletes in this brief episode. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm Jerred Moon, and I've been on and off with kettlebells for a long time. Years and years ago, I think it was 2016, I released the program One Man, One Kettlebell, which is out there for all of our garage gym athletes. You can find it in the program library inside the app if you want to do it. If you want to access that program, I've had a lot of great success with that. It has a supplemental strength program, but I'm not necessarily here to sell you on One Man, One Kettlebell. But I do want to talk about kettlebell training because this is something I utilize on and off, and I utilize strategically. And I wanted to talk to other garage gym athletes who might do it, because sometimes I feel like when people get into kettlebell training, or you see someone kind of dip their toe into the kettlebell training water, it's like, oh, I only do kettlebell training now. I'm a kettlebell athlete, and all I do are swing maces, pick up sandbags, and have kettlebells. It's like, why does it have to be this all or nothing mentality? So let's talk about getting into kettlebell training. I'll start with the beginner. Now, as a beginner, when you're getting into kettlebell training, you have to realize that kettlebell training is more power-based, because you're lifting a load and you're doing it quickly most of the time. And you need to think of kettlebell training as just that: quick, dynamic, power-based movements. Now, you could utilize, if you're an absolute beginner in training in general, you could utilize this as a pure strength implement, but I'm going to go ahead and say that's the mistake most people are making with kettlebells when they're trying to get into kettlebell training, is they may be accustomed to lifting dumbbells, lifting barbells, things like that, or maybe they've dabbled in it. And so what you want to do is just like, okay, how do I curl this? How do I deadlift it? How do I press it? You're just trying to do all of those, very standard cookie cutter lifts, but you're trying to do it with a kettlebell now. And then you're confused about like, why are people all about kettlebells? Why not just use a dumbbell? When really a kettlebell has a very different purpose. Again, when I think kettlebell, I think power, and that's how it should be utilized, which means we're going to be doing things quickly. It doesn't mean you can't press it, you can't deadlift it, you can't, do all those things. You absolutely can, but those would be more supplemental exercises to kettlebell training. If you're going to be doing kettlebell training and you're just getting into it, you want to start implementing things like kettlebell swings, kettlebell snatches, kettlebell cleans, and even the Turkish get-up is a really solid movement. All of these are very skill-based, but I think that you should add them to your training. So the first thing you're going to want to do is add all the ones I just said to your training if you're trying to ease into this as a beginner. So kettlebell snatches, kettlebell cleans, kettlebell swings, and Turkish get-ups. Those are the 4 you're going to want to make sure you have in your program, as well as the supplemental exercises that you were probably trying to put into your kettlebell training program in the first place, which are just the standard presses, curls, deadlifts, all those kind of things. And when you're doing that, you should start to get fatigued at a power-based level. I mean, you do the swings to get fatigued, kind of you're breathing hard, your heart rate's up, but you want to maintain that good form. Now you're working in more power-based methodology, and you can go higher rep because it's not as damaging or hard on the body as power-based movements are with a barbell. So that's the first mistake, is trying to treat it like it's any other implement. It's not. It's a specialized implement. It's for power-based movements, but yes, it can do all of these other supplemental exercises. Learn how to do all of those. Learn how to do them well. Now, I'll say specifically on the kettlebell swing, I would start with just doing a standard swing, not the American kettlebell swing. Don't go all the way above your head. Just ending wherever you want. I normally like to say around eye level, like the Russian style, the hard style, like there are all these different styles that we could talk about, but just swing with your hips, utilize your hips for power, and bring it up. If that's all the way up to eye level, halfway, whatever it is, then that's what you want to, where you want to start. And then as you get better at the movement, you can start to add more weight, but start very light and progress more from there. Now, for my more advanced athletes, and I put myself in this category, what I do with kettlebell training is I will typically take like garage gym athlete programming and I'll mold it to use only a kettlebell if I want to use kettlebell training. Now, we can add different programming. You can follow some of our kettlebell programming that we have in garage gym athlete, or you can go to a specific track like bare bones that's in there that has more kettlebell specific training. Like, we already have those things in our program. So I'm not trying to give you a new way to tackle things. I'm just telling you what I do sometimes is I will take something like our hard to kill programming where it might have barbells or whatever, and I'm going to implement kettlebell training in place of some of these movements. And so what I'm typically doing is we're already programming power-based movements in the hard to kill track, especially this cycle. I'll just do them with a kettlebell as opposed to a barbell. Anything power-based, I'll be doing one of those 3 power-based movements I mentioned. So a kettlebell swing, a kettlebell snatch, or a kettlebell clean. That's what I'll do for most of my power-based movements. And then when it comes down to like if I want to deadlift with a kettlebell as opposed to using a barbell, and I might have specific reasons, mobility, injury, or maybe I want to get more single leg modality, that's what I'll do in place of like a deadlift. So instead of deadlifting a barbell, I'll take my heaviest kettlebell and I'll do single leg deadlifts or single arm presses. And obviously, everything has to be single with a kettlebell, but I don't typically do like a goblet squat where I'm squatting with 2 legs at the same time. I'll do a single leg squat with a kettlebell. I'll do a single leg deadlift with a kettlebell, obviously single arm presses. So I take the methods that I'm using in Garage Gym Athlete, and then I just try to get everything to single leg. So it's kind of the same or single unilateral modality, should I say. So either single arm or single leg. And so same advice I gave beginner athletes is like, hey, make sure you have these power-based movements, and then you can add the supplemental exercises. For my more advanced athletes, it's kind of the same thing. You can just go heavier. You can do more repetitions, and you will already know if you're hitting the power-based threshold. But then at the same time, when you get to the supplemental, if you're more advanced, you're going to want to go heavy, the heaviest kettlebell that you can with good form, always that caveat. But then you're going to want to bring it down to single arm, single leg, so unilateral. This is really going to challenge you in balance and even mobility, because instead of a standard squat, I could do a Cossack squat. So which is basically a side lunge, a ton of mobility, hard to do with a lot of weight, and you will be sore after the fact. You could do a pistol with a very light kettlebell. You could do a pistol down to a bench if that's too hard for you. And then doing everything single arm or single leg is going to challenge you in a way that you probably haven't been challenged in a long time if you've only been using a barbell. And it can be a great break from a cycle to just try and make these changes, these quick, prescription changes to the same programming that we're already doing. Because I do this all the time. I committed to even this cycle. I was like, I'm going to predominantly use kettlebells this cycle just because that's kind of what I was interested in, what I want to use. And so I'm utilizing more kettlebells. So whether you're beginner or advanced, the kettlebell is a phenomenal implement to add to your training. I don't think, unless you really want to, you don't have to go all kettlebells and maces and only do those things, because I think there are pros and cons to only ever lifting something that, in all honesty, is generally not that heavy when we compare it to a barbell, but it has a lot of pros and your body won't feel beat up after most kettlebell training. So definitely give it a try. So if you're one of our athletes, you can make these implementations that I'm talking about. You can adjust the programming on the fly. If you ever need help with that, feel free to reach out to us. We also have several kettlebell apps in the program library that you can utilize. It's inside the app. You can utilize these at any time, or you can make an adjustment to the current programming. And if you're a beginner just getting into this stuff, just make sure that you're adding the power base. Don't treat it like it's a dumbbell or a barbell. And then also add those supplemental exercises and you'll be good to go. But if you'd rather just see what a program looks like that has all these things in it, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial. We would love to have you. But everyone, remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.